And so then sort of the last kind of debt equivalent, or sorry, not debt equivalent, but non-equity claim on the firm are hybrid securities. There's things called convertible debt. Convertible debt is a bond that can be converted into common stock if a certain series of events occur. So they're typically sold, say, with a provision that says if the firm's operating performance decreases to X amount, we can convert these into equity shares. That way we can have a say in the firm and how it's run. Right? Because remember, bondholders don't get a say in the firm, equity holders do. So this is often the way that Warren Buffett takes investments in companies if they ask him for them. Particularly, he's famous for doing this during financial crises. Firms come to him, they say, listen, we know you have cash, we really need the money to stay afloat. And he says, great, I'll make you a convertible loan, and I'll convert this into equity shares if I want to. He does it with that, and he does preferred shares. He really likes preferred shares. These are really difficult to value. And unless you've had any class on options or derivatives, I'm just going to say that we value them using what's called an option value approach, which is based on a Black-Scholes model, which is a pricing model that gives us a value of a bond with an option like this to convert into equity. It's way outside the scope of this class. And so we are going to estimate the value. Again, the goal, though, is the same. We want the total market value of these bonds. And we're going to use a very complicated math model to get the price. Then we'll multiply that by the number of outstanding bonds and deduct it from enterprise value, because this is a claim against the enterprise value of the firm. We have employee stock options. This is another hybrid claim against the firm. Again, it's something we owe our employees. And this is usually paid as part of the compensation package for senior and middle management, for management in the firm. A stock option is granted as a way to let the employees buy a stake in the firm for cheaper than the market price. Right? So an option is a security that gives the holder the right to buy the company's stock at a specified price that ideally is lower than the actual price in the market. So you might give your senior management team an option to buy stock at $50 a share when the market price is $100 a share. Now that has a lot of value, because if I can buy a share for 50 and the market price is 100, then the company gives me this share for 50, I can immediately go sell it in the market for $100 and make $50. That's why it's used as a compensation for the employees. It's a way to give them both compensation and a stake in the firm itself, which is an important tool in trying to align the incentives of management and ownership. Right? Now, again, this is an option. It's a complicated mathematical model to calculate the price of these options, the value of these options. And so we won't go over it because, again, I just can't be sure whether everybody's got the requisite information available. And talking about options, if you've never talked about options before, this is not the time to start. So our goal is to value these options, deduct the claim against enterprise value that employees might have against the firm because we've promised them compensation in this way. A minority interest is an interest that another firm has in a subsidiary that we own, right? And so they have a claim against our firm value because they have a claim against our subsidiary value. And we're going to have to, mostly this is easy because if we have this ownership of this firm, we're going to have better financial information. If we're outside the firm and we don't have it, but this is maybe a publicly traded subsidiary, again, eBay owned PayPal. So if somebody else also had a stake in PayPal, then we could estimate their stake by looking at the total market value of PayPal and then subtract that claim from enterprise value. If it's a privately held subsidiary, then we jump back 10 slides and we're going to have to value that subsidiary based on one of those methods, then calculate the percent of that value that goes to this minority stakeholder and subtract that claim from enterprise value. Okay. And then the final step is more or less the easiest one. Once we've estimated all the non-operating assets, added them to the value of the operations to get enterprise value, and then estimated the value of all the claims against enterprise value from non-equity claims to get equity value. Then all we have left to do is divide by the number of outstanding shares, right? And there's a couple of different ways, but essentially the best way is to divide by the number of undiluted shares outstanding, okay? And then we're going to have the equity price per share. And this is what we're going to use to compare to the current price per share and see if we did a good job, more or less. Okay. That's all I have for this chapter. Again, it's not a super long one. It is really important to your fifth homework, so please remember to go back to all these. There's not a huge number of non-operating assets or non-equity claims in the homework financial statements, but there are a few. And this is how I expect you to value them when you calculate enterprise value and when you deduct all the non-equity claims to calculate equity value and equity price per share. We've only got one more chapter left for the semester. It's on analyzing the process, the entire thing. How do we think about what we did? What are the big mistakes that people make? So I'll get that put together and put out. I hope you guys are doing well, and we'll see you next time.